a question that I run into a lot, which is what even is a data management plan? And I really get that a lot, because the phrase data management means everything to everyone, as far as I can tell. Everyone just wants to say they're managing data. It's so trendy and so cool. And we're all doing it so well already in a lot of cases. But also a sort of philosophical question about the concept of having exemplars. Is this really going to produce what we need, or is it just going to produce a lot of cookie cutter, very similar seeming results? And so that's maybe in a broader sense. What is the benefit of exemplars?
Nina, thank you so much. And that's also a perfect segue, because I think there are still these foundational questions about what is a DMP and what's its function, and how can it be useful. So I'd love to hand the mic back over to you, Nina, to walk us through the DMSP template and sort of answer some of these basic questions about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meg. And I'm going to say that a data management plan can mean a lot of things depending on the context. There are many different situations that use things that they call data management plans. But today, we're talking specifically about the new or forthcoming 2023 Data Management and Sharing Plan documents that the NIH has announced, but has fortunately not become effective yet, because we don't have some of the information that we would like to have. That's part of what what we're doing here today. So the Data Management and Sharing Plan is a supplemental document. It is binding. It goes in with an NIH grant and also other NIH funding mechanisms. If you do cooperative agreements or things like that, those are also affected. It is somehow in 2 pages. You're supposed to outline the entire proposed approach of data management and sharing. But what they really mean is how you're going to get the data to a shareable, disseminatable sort of format, something that can be shared alongside publications with the results of the grant. And it describes the activities that are anticipated as of the time that the funding proposal is written. So they know that over a 3 to 5 year grant, that's not necessarily going to be exactly what happens. Next slide. Up one, please. They have expanded what they want to talk about with data. They refer to it as affecting anything that produces scientific data. So currently, if you do NIH, there's only certain mechanisms, only certain types of studies, and only large budgets are affected. Starting in 2023, anything producing scientific data, regardless of mechanism or amount, will be affected by the new policy, and it affects any data which is of commonly accepted in the scientific community as of sufficient quality to validate and replicate findings, regardless of whether those data are used to support scholarly publications. And then they give us a list of things that it is not. This expands on it quite a lot by saying that it doesn't matter whether it's associating with a publication. But it also refers to the scientific community, which is why all of this has to go through the scientific community and can't really be determined by a bunch of librarians in terms of what the best practices and standards are, or at least why a bunch of librarians and other data sharers and documenters can't necessarily produce the quality. We may be able to say this checks the boxes and this hasn't, but we don't have the subject expertise necessary to produce examples in the first place. Next slide, please. But we do know what goes into a plan, because they've told us, fortunately, it's got 6 sections. The types of data, which is a broad estimate of sort of file types and volume to be expected in a sort of compliance way. You know, how will a program officer know whether you're in the right ballpark of what you predicted when you submitted the grant? Tools, software, and code, standards for data and for metadata, data preservation, access, and timelines. So where is it going to be shared and when's it going to be shared? Reuse considerations, access considerations such as ethics, intellectual property, preventing yourself from being scooped, and then oversight, or who does the NIH call if they don't get their data by the end of the grant? Next slide, please. So those are very broad points, but we're going to be looking at and providing feedback on the submissions we get. One of the things that PIs always ask is, can I get an example so at least I can get a vibe for what I'm supposed to be doing? And since this isn't in effect for another year and a month, year and 2 months, then we don't have any examples yet. So fortunately, our friends at FASEB and the constituent associations have been kind enough to give us the opportunity to review and give feedback, come up with some good examples, but also to give feedback to folks. So if your stakeholders are worried that they won't be represented in the examples or that there won't be good feedback for that discipline, this is the time to get that feedback. This is the time to say, hey, my discipline needs to be addressed in this very specific way. There will be a rubric to give a sense of what kinds of things we consider as data sharers and documenters, and repositories and digital preservationists. But of course, how they're explained in the DMPs, DMSPs will affect that a lot. But then we'll give feedback on what we thought did and didn't fit the rubric. And you can always put it up online with an excoriating statement that those reviewers didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't even understand how multiomics works. And we will take that. We'll try to take that very humbly.